Okay. Shall Section 5 of the Charter of the City of Akron be amended to require Akron City Council to enact campaign finance and ethics standards within 90 days of passage of this charter amendment, which shall include contribution limits of $200 for ward candidates and $450 for citywide candidates, and a review of contribution limits every 2 years, commencing in 2012. Such review to include a public hearing regarding campaign finance. Yes or no? Okay, Warner, what do you say?
Well, we had, this is one of the initiative petition drives that changed our charter in 1998, setting the limit at $100 donation for ward council seats and $300 per donation for at-large and the mayoral seats. That law, basically, it took us about 6 years to get the city hall through the courts to implement that law. We won every step of the way. We are back in court right now because the mayor violated the law. He received about $36,000 over the limits. We're asking him to return that money, pay the fine, and a judge, Judge Callahan, found that he violated the law and that he owes a fine. Now, he's appealing that ruling. He doesn't like it, and he's really the driving force behind changing these limits. It was interesting. I heard Marco Somerville's comments the other day. On the radio, they asked him, is there any problem with you and these limits? Oh, no, I'm fine with the limits. That's what he said. Marco Somerville said he's fine with the limits. It's the mayor who wants these changed. But what he's doing is essentially putting the foxes in charge of the hen house. The council will actually determine what it would like to see as limits, if any. It doesn't have to have any after 2012. Yeah. And they can adjust them, they can do away with them, whatever they want. Now, this sounds good. Oh, they're going to set contribution limits and have ethics laws. Well, everybody wants contribution limits and ethics laws, right? Not these, you don't.
Yeah. We already have them.
We already have them, right. And, you know, I was involved in the initiative back in '98 to get this on the ballot. And, you know, we do have relatively low contribution limits, but, you know, I don't have any problems. I mean, if I can get a $100 contribution, that's great. You know? I have a hard time getting that much money now. Go ahead, Warren. What?
Well, let's look at what happened in the last election. You know, you'll hear over and over how this hurts challengers, how this hurts our elections.
It doesn't.
We had over 50 people on the ballot for council. We had more competition, more choice, more people interested in campaigning and running and doing something for the city. And we had 5 new people elected just last year under these terrible limits that don't allow for challenges and change.
Well, let me give you a little background, personal background. 1993, which is quite a few years ago.
There were no limits.
There was no limits. I first ran for city council and basically self-funded my campaign and ran against the mayor's choice, all right, who was given tons of money.
I think I remember you spent $2,000.
Okay, I spent $2,000. They spent $12,000. I still won. Okay, 2 years later, this woman that they ran against me was even more well-funded. Actually, the mayor gave her $10,000 out of his own campaign account. Okay, trying to buy an election just because I wasn't somebody that he could control. So I still won. Okay, then Warner was on council, I think, and Ernie was on council back then. If you remember, back in the 90s, the Republicans came up with a contract with America. I think it was Ernie's idea. Said, why don't we come up with a contract for Akron? And one of the things that we proposed, which is a number of reforms, was campaign limits. And we proposed that. And they just about laughed us out of council, didn't they? And so it went nowhere. They had an opportunity, council had an opportunity back in the 90s to impose some kind of campaign contribution limits. They chose not to. So that's when the people took it to the streets and we petitioned through the initiative process to get that on the ballot. And I think it's been a good law. I think it's made it more competitive. And one thing, the mayor can't give somebody directly $10,000 anymore to bump somebody off, even though he does raise money in other ways for people that he wants to get on there, but he can't do it as directly. Now, he's never complied with the campaign finance laws. He's been sued. there's a court order telling his law director to come up with the amount, okay? And that's been like 7 months ago that the judge ordered his law director to come up with an amount. I haven't heard anything about it. He's appealing it. But, okay, this is a very, very, I think it's very important that we keep the limits in the charter and don't let the politicians decide what they're going to be, because they don't want any limits, period. Okay, they want to raise as much money as they can. So this is a very bad thing for democracy, and it's very tricky. It's like a lot of people that don't know anything will say, yeah, it sounds pretty good. We need campaign finance reform, and ethics standards. We already have them, and the ones we have are better than this. So one thing we should have had, okay, looking back, is probably some way of increasing the amounts, okay? Now, we didn't think of that back in '98 when we put that together, and there probably could be a small increase on these limits, but what this basically does is they do that for this next 2 years, and then they open it up where the council can, like Warner said, set any limits they want or have no limits whatsoever.
Can't they index that?
Well, you'd have to have a charter amendment to do that.
Yeah.
So I'd support a charter amendment that would do that.
It's actually a good question. I think that there would be a way to index it, because you could say what we voted on in '98 was $100. So whatever $100 is equal to now, that's what it should be.
Should
So I
be
mean,
indexed
if I were the law director for the city of Akron trying to help out the citizens, I would say, look, what we meant, that's the index right there. Whatever $100 is worth now, or was worth then, we got to have that
That's a
amount
good
now.
idea.
That'd be an easy way to do it.
That's
and I
supposed to be
think
like
it'd in compliance.
$133 or something like
Yeah.
that, according to John Frank.
They won't do it.
They won't do that.
Right. Well, and just to give you guys an example of the kind of money we're talking about, your splashy little flyers. Anybody seen the TV commercials? I haven't seen them yet. Yeah,
What
there's
channel
TV
did you see 'em on?
commercials.
It wasn't
Fox?
any of the locals, it was a cable.
The cable, yeah, I heard it played during the Heat Celtics game. I don't know. Anyhow, and you see the big billboards and all the yard signs.
So
a lot
he's
of
just
permits put
using
up.
his negative
Right.
campaigning,
Oh,
talking about scoundrels.
It's this.
It's not gonna work.
Just so you know, the people why did I say people? The corporations that funded Citizens for Akron, First Energy gave $25,000. Goodyear gave $15,000. We have a couple $5,000 contributions from some legal groups. Our little group, Save Our City, we got $1,500 from Police Union. We got $1,500 from Fire Union. We got an in-kind contribution from Zach Milkovich of $1,200. He helped pay for our large yard signs. We've gotten $100 here and there from a couple people. We raised about $5,000. So you're talking about $71,000 for just this. I mean, this isn't even the people. These are the issues.
Yeah.
And in a short period of time, $71,000 versus our little $5.
There's no limits on what they
no
can
limits
raise
for
for
this.
PACs right now.
Right.
The limits we have in the charter just apply to the elected officials here in Akron, the council and the mayor. So,
Well, let's,
Vicki, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to, she was holding this up. The person in the town and the charter review commissions who pushed every meeting that I was at was John Frank, the former council person, and I believe he was on council when you tried to get the...
Back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s. He brought that up. People had objections to it. He pushed and he pushed and he pushed until he got the Charter Review Commission to say it needs to come out of the charter altogether, and
Yeah.
that's what they recommended.
See, what they did
And
change.
John Frank is the treasurer
Right.
of Citizens for Akron.
Right.
And he was directly responsible for this.
Yeah. See,
And I think it came directly
Their
from the
first
administration.
recommendation that we picked around at some of the caucuses we had was to actually take it completely out of the charter. And Mark, he's the president, he's a smart politician. He just thought, I remember him saying, when we did pass this, he said, we're going to take baby steps. Well, he came up with a way of like making it sound like we're not taking it out of the charter, well, not now. We're going to leave it in the charter for now. We're just going to raise the limits a little bit and then give the council the authority to do whatever they want with it in 2 years. So those are baby steps. First step is to get this passed, and then in 2 years they can raise the limits to anything they want or nothing at all.
Right.
So,
And they say public hearing. Has anybody ever been to a public
Yeah,
hearing? Because I have.
they
I have.
They listen, but they don't hear.
No. Yeah, because they're going to vote it on emergency anyways as soon as you're done talking.
See, the Akron public hearing?
Yeah,
We
city
had,
council.
there was a public hearing about charter amendments, and we had gathered a number of ideas
Proposals.
together. And there were, I mean, I know that Change Akron Now proposed, they got from our membership, about 800 people in our email list submitted ideas, and we had 17 core ideas that we presented to the council. They didn't accept, and there were other people who were there giving ideas to the council. They didn't take on any single idea from any citizen. No idea coming from the outside was ever adopted by them. I'd like to point out one more thing, and then let's move on to the next issue, which I want Christie will handle. But First Energy was involved in the recall money. They raised $300,000 for the mayor to defend him in the recall to $7,000 for the citizens. So if you want to know why the messages were dominated by the mayor, that's why. 300,000 to 7,000. Same kind of ratios happening here. And First Energy's leading the charge again. $25,000 from First Energy. $5,000 from the law firm of Browse McDowell. $5,000 from the law firm of Retzel and Andrus. Why do these law firms give this kind of money to these kind of campaigns? Does anybody know?
Money.
Business decisions. What kind of business do they want? City business, exactly. These law firms are paid millions of dollars. And we're going to get to, later on, one of the law firms that got millions of dollars to do a
And
project.
some of the smaller donations are from contractors. When I say a small donation to Citizens for Akron, $1,000 was small, and I recognize some of those people as contractors that are getting on-bid contracts with the city right now. Now, what a lot of people don't understand, personal service contracts don't even have to be bid on, okay? Things like asbestos removal, okay, that's a personal service contract. So we got somebody that's the mayor's personal friend that does that and gets those contracts. I don't want to name any names, but he gave a couple $1,000s to Citizens for Akron, and you got to wonder why. Probably this individual probably doesn't even live in Akron, okay, but it's mostly just to curry favors with this mayor. Ohio Edison, we're overcharged right now for the power that we use for our electric, light posts. We're overcharged now. They got some really, really sweet deals on land, okay, out there on White Pond Drive. Basically, the city gave them this land. So, yeah, it's great to have First Energy based right here in Akron, but you wonder why the mayor wants them so bad. Okay, these people these are rich executives. They all give money. Them and their wives all give at least $1,000 apiece to Don. All right, now this is really bad. This issue 14 Yeah, this is 14. Anybody else have anything to say about the campaign limits? This guy hasn't said anything yet.
At the time of this charter amendment, when the council would be voting on their own contribution, that doesn't seem like it would pass court scrutiny, and it would seem to me the court would probably say that they can't.
I think if they change the charter to say you can do it, then
If we vote yes on this, they can get
They
away
can
with
do
it.
it.
Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah.
The only way to stop them is to vote
no
no.
on this.
Yeah.
So,
They can do it, I assure you.
It's a bad.
Remember, there were no limits.
There was
There
no
used to
limits.
be no limits. The mayor was dropping $10,000 on his favorite council people to ensure their loyalty. And when we passed that law in 1998, it stopped that basically bribery of these council people.
Right.